Hello, this is Athena Jezik again, and we're doing our massage series. So today we're going to be working on the back. I'm going to show you the neck and the back and the shoulders. So we'll get started. By the way, I wanted to thank you all for those of you who've been with these series. I hope you've gotten some ideas out of it or understanding and expanded your knowledge of this kind of work a little bit. So thank you so much for tuning in. All right, I'm just applying the oil. You want to have it not too much, but enough that the viscosity is a nice slip. And the neck. Okay, so the way that I work the back is I have somewhat of a routine that I do, so I'm sure to do on the same thing on both sides. It's very irritating when a person will work one side one way and the other side another way. At least for me, it's irritating. So I developed myself to have a routine. There's times when you have to work one side a little bit differently because of muscle tension, but for the most part, especially in a relaxation massage, you want to balance everything out. So I am starting out by just spreading the trapezius muscle, and I'm finding what's going on back here. And there's some stuff that's not quite the way it should be right here where the trapezius is the edge of the trapezius going down into probably the rhomboid there. And yeah, and then the ribs, I'm checking the ribs. And then we can get started by thumb irons right down the middle of the back with just enough pressure to open up the tissue, not too much pressure. And then you come back up. Now when you go down the vertebrae, the little bones, they will close together, and when you come up the vertebrae, their bones are going to be opening up. So you get two different little actions of the spine. And as you know, the vertebrae needs to be worked with its range of motion. Because we want the spine in really good health. They say that you're only as old as your spine. So if you're a young person and your spine is very stiff, you're an older person, if that little saying is accurate. So here I'm just spreading this rector spinae and then working back up, and then we're going to just sweep the muscles. And I've got my thumb going down along the vertebrae. The rest of the hand is just sliding. Okay, then up to the shoulder. Starting up into the neck, at the base of the neck. Stretch that out. And I know this is going to be a little harder to see on this side, but so you're stretching, and what you're doing is you're finding till you get to the scapula and then drawing it up. And that way you can also tell how the muscles are attaching to the scapula, if there's any problem with any misalignment going on. And then you can roll through the shoulder up here. It's the trapezius muscle and the elevator, and just knead it a little bit and work across the scapula, around the scapula. You can take your hand and just slide it under the scapula and raise it up and go underneath it here. Sometimes if it seems a little stiff you can shake it. And I'm just going to say that, okay, well, I'll say that in a minute. And then you stretch the muscle back out along that trapezius and then sweep it downward to get to the low back. Now I'm going to stop right here for a minute because I'm going to mention that some people wrap the hand behind like so and then lift it up. That doesn't really do anything much different than getting underneath it and lifting it up this way. The difference is that not everybody is flexible enough to do this because you have to put quite a torque on your shoulder to do that. The other thing is that sometimes people have an emotional thing with being bound. And I just prefer not to go near things that are going to be possibly rough on the person. That's going to take them out of the relaxed state. So I prefer just lifting the shoulder up. You can get it actually higher this way, and it doesn't hurt. You can still take yourself under pretty deeply. And you also have a little more room for the flexibility because you're not locking it back. There are some people that have very flexible shoulders. That way you could do that with. But for just the common person, if you have a practice, most people are going to be uncomfortable with their hand wrapped behind them. Now here we're just at the hip, making some little thumb moves along where it's attached. And checking in, here's the SI joint, and coming around there. Then we're going to go up the spine, one side, real close into the spine here. I'm going to use both thumbs, riding up and getting into the neck, pulling this down as you're riding it up. So you're giving kind of a double stretch there. And then you go to the belly, more the belly of this back muscle, the the erector spinae. And same thing when you get up to the neck, I always pull the shoulder a little bit. And then you're on the edge of the erector muscle. And you'll feel how you get into the, you're going to be crossing over the trapezius, so don't think that there's a problem there, because sometimes when you cross over muscles, it feels kind of like there might be a knot. And then you come back down, and then we're going to do this little pulling, just a downward motion with your finger, and then you just take your other fingers of the other hand, and so you're stretching the muscle outward. I think it's important to work along the vertebrae, up into the shoulder, and then back down. And then we're going to come up again with the fingers more to the belly and just go up really slow. And again, that's to feel if there's been any change, if the muscle is more smooth, or if there's still spots that need to be worked. It's just a little indicator. And of course, in a relaxing massage, just a relaxation type of work, you can stop and work on some of that stuff, but it's different work than when you work with an injury. Okay, so now we're going to go to the other side. And hopefully you'll be able to see okay. I'm stretching here. And you want to be careful about pulling hair. And then we move down a little bit more, and I'm going right into that scapula. And there's where we've got some little more tension. Up through here, wringing it out. working across the scapula. Usually I work down, but because I'm in a little bit different position for the cameras, I'm going to just work it upward. And then we grab in here. Now here's that lift of the shoulder. My hand is underneath the shoulder. The shoulder is right there in that little indentation. And then you can lift it upward, up that way, and shake, and then bring your hand underneath. Wing the scapula open. This is a real flexible scapula. Sometimes it's really hard to get in there. So with the flexible scapula, you can kind of just make circles, but if it's a really tight scapula, you might want to run your finger along the edge of it there and loosen that muscle. And then you can check range of motion with it all as well. And then sweeping down. And then here we go with the little thumb movements. I'm not really wagging my thumbs. They're moving with my hand. They're in alignment. A thumb wag would be more like that. You want to draw it long and use more of your arm. And then here we go, up the spine. Slowly, and you can feel that it's pretty good shape. Sometimes you'll feel things out. There's a little bit of a misalignment there. A lot of times when cranial work is done, a lot of the small spinal misalignments will be corrected. I know that to be possible because I've worked on people with disc problems, and the disc has gone back to the proper position, so they didn't need surgery. But that's a whole different technique. And then back down. And then we're going to do this little coming up and opening, spreading this muscle. This back strap, stretching it away from the vertebrae. And then back down. My pressure is more than I'm used to doing, but I don't think it's still a lot of pressure. And then I cup my fingers around and kind of just hold on to the body as I bring it back up. I'm going to go back to the other side, even though I would continue to work here, but I'm going to go to the other side and do the remainder. So now we're going to work along the spine. First of all, 2 fingers on either side of the spine from the very base of the skull, vibrating down. It's just a little rocking back and forth. Or you can do this, but this is easier. And then get into the SI joints a little bit. Check the alignment of the sacrum. Although if the sacrum is misaligned, then that's some other work that has to be done. Now I'm going to just run my thumbs from the spine out. This is a little bit deeper opening, stretching that muscle away from the bone. And up to the neck, and then running it back down. Remember, we're stretching it now, coming back down. We're going to have that opening, that closing of the vertebrae. And then we're going to go down to this side. And same thing. Right next to the vertebrae. Stretching it out. And moving muscle away, giving it some stretch where it's attached. You know, there's a lot of little things going on along the spine. And then there's big muscles on top, so you're not really getting down to the real deep levels of this, but it's still helping because the top layers are opening up so the deeper structures can move with a little bit more freedom. So now I'm gonna pick up, take my hands and go on either side of that back strap muscle and pulling it in, coming back up, 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 up to the neck. And then we're gonna do the vibration again, coming down. And you might notice I get extremely vascular in my hands when I work. My hands are actually always cold, except when I work they get really hot. And there's a lot of blood flow that goes down there. I think it's because I do work with a lot of energy through my hands, so there's a lot of changes. Now in this one we just vibrated down, so now I'm going to take my thumbs and move up the spine, and this is going to create that opening between the vertebrae as we come up. And so this one you want to stay going fairly slow, and you want to be sure that you're staying right next to the vertebrae, feeling each little part of that spine coming up. And then we're going to get up to the neck and go around each vertebrae as we go back down. Here we go. Sometimes I get to moving sort of fast. My hands are so trained at this that they just want to speed by. And then we're feeling again down in that low back. We're not doing anything to straighten the sacrum in this work. Okay, now we're going to just wrap the body outward. And here's where the soft tissue is, but now we're going to get into the ribs. So if you can find the ribs and put your fingers between there, you're going to be able to give a little bit of work to the intercostal muscles. And you might notice that it's easier to take a deeper breath if your intercostal muscles are tight. And then the other side, same thing, we're going to wrap down. And through those intercostals. And out, and then we're going to wrap up, pull, and you can also kind of stick those fingers in there for the intercostals, but you don't want to be like you're clawing, so you want to more use the whole pad of the entire finger. And then this side too. So here's the ribs, so your fingers are in between, but you're not clawing like I was kind of doing, showing you on the other side. Okay, we can run back down. And now a real interesting thing is just place your hand on the low back. I always put the hand above the head so you can feel some energy moving, and you just meld with that skin, just meld with the back, and then slowly, just real slowly, let your hand begin to move up the spine. Sometimes you'll feel tissue unwinding this year more in the fascial region rather than the muscle. So it's like you're almost kind of like pulling the skin. But sometimes you feel some correction going on. You just want to go nice and slow. So thank you so much for watching this series. Really appreciate it. Appreciate your comments. Appreciate that you're taking the time out of your life to take a look at it.